I did want to just step outside the conversation for a second and to highlight that I know, we've thrown around hybrid and in-person, asynchronous and synchronous. So some students, and this is something that I would love to hear from both of you, some students actually have the choice to not go back into school, even if the schools offer that option to students. So if a student is fully remote, that means that they have made the choice with their families to stay at home and to learn remotely through digital interaction and other ways of communication. But the hybrid is more of like learning sometimes online and sometimes in person. Okay, so is there a large portion, Cam, of your student population that is currently learning remotely?
Yeah, we've got about 50% of our students that are remote right now, exclusively remote, and then the other 50% that are hybrid. So we break ours down into 2 days per week, Monday, Wednesday, and then Tuesday, Thursday. Mm-hmm. And then we utilize Friday for deep clean, various professional developments, and to prepare for the new week. The families that have been remote, I think that they've made those decisions, from what I've observed, basically around safety precautions. I think that that's been the primary driver. Not even always that's the preferred learning style or the best option for the family's current circumstances, but I think people that are driven by safety first, maybe they sometimes elect that remote only option. Some families are choosing hybrid at the student's request. Those students may need or prefer to be face-to-face. That family may also have needs or preferences that dictates that decision. But we would love to see a world where, regardless of what health and safety guidelines are, we could support any student that wants to be in the building. So I think that's what we try to keep in mind as we develop and change our systems. I think that what we've learned already is that we are able to make such changes to what we've done already that it's not impossible. It would just be another layer of change. So if the opportunity came about, I think I would take it as a fun challenge to try to make it work.
Students that are higher need, their parents have to stay right with them on the computer and sign in. So for some of my students with those needs, what we have did that are fully remote, we blocked out half-hour intervals of just one-on-one time. Some of them wouldn't be able to handle a more classroom like Zoom or Google Meet setting with more than one person, and so we get to give them that individual time. We do have another remote class that I'm managing is in the morning, and the students are at a much higher level, and there's 3 of them right now, and for their work experience, they're cleaning their homes every day. We have other things that we're doing, and we're trying to teach them right now a lot of different life skills. One project it's ongoing, the kids seem to really be getting into, it's grocery shopping online and learning how to do that and creating meals, and I'm working on budgeting. So we're making it work, and we're giving them as much opportunities as we can of a real life situation. So like I said, with parents, with our students with higher needs, it's a struggle for them because they have to set time aside. They have to open up the computer for the student. They have to log in for them because some of them may not even physically be able to do it. Mm-hmm. Some of them don't even know, even though they're young adults, they may not even know the alphabet. We're talking people students at a different level and need. Then there's also just the technical breakdowns of the Chromebook or internet when not working properly. It's a change, but we're meeting it like Cam said. He's at the other end. Like I feel like I'm at the foot soldier, work, and Cam is at a different level, taking on all the other, he's the one who gets all the headaches from us, say, right, the teachers.
So it's funny because you touched upon the fact that the complexity of your role as a teacher has just grown in ways that are anticipated, to the point where now not only do you just have to learn new platforms, but then the expectation is kind of retroactive too, in the fact that to use those platforms, you also have to be very tech savvy, is what you kind of referenced, right? And that's not in everybody's wheelhouse, and it also isn't necessarily a requirement for many as they're getting their teaching licensures. So if you could talk a little bit as to what defines education now that has really changed? What has been the effects of COVID? And then what's in store for us?
I think the one dream I have from all of this is that we just customize the learning experience for students. I think it's shown the opportunity that we can go away from the traditional model that's existed for years and years and years. The way that in-person instruction looks, as well as the way that remote instruction could and should look possibly moving forward. We have an opportunity now to not only facilitate remote instruction, but really dive in and understand what a successful remote instruction could look like for students pre-K through 12. We can really look at that. We can model some of the things that work well at the university level. And we can start to prepare students when we talk about making them college ready. We could really do that by simulating more of that experience with more technology. So I would love to see that happen. I would love to see the opportunity for students who maybe work well remotely and their family schedule or their life circumstances dictate that a hybrid opportunity could work well for them. Maybe it's our older students who are also trying to navigate work and different things in addition to school. I would love to see them have that opportunity and for it not to be as much of an anomaly. I think that prior to the pandemic and the shutdown, students who had jobs or, whatever the case may be, it was just a lot more challenging for them to get the type of exemptions they needed to really live their life and also be successful and invested in school. So I think for me, the overarching goal is that we can really customize this process, provide more options that can make students and families happy. We understand that this is a business, but in reality, our students and families are the consumers, but they're not driving the decisions to this point like they are the consumers. And I think that that's the shift I would love to see.
I agree. I like the idea that we get to provide students other options of learning that they've never had before. And we need to continue that. Well, we're working out, like you said, the nuts and bolts of it. But I think when we get there, it's going to be a wonderful way of being able to provide for our students that we've never been able to do before.
Yeah, so in education speak, we've been talking about equity, student-centered learning, authentic learning, responsiveness, cultural responsiveness, and these are all paradigms that are valuable paradigms that we've struggled to drive change at a large scale in education because of the traditional maybe barriers. And this might actually be, I love how you put, this is almost like an entry point to no longer have any kind of almost excuses as to why that can't be, right? We have no excuses for what this could be for students and families moving forward. But this idea of what a work day looks like, I feel like that's a really huge consequence that people who are not in education don't necessarily know. And if you both could just talk a little bit about that, because I think it's interesting from more of an administrative and instructional approach, but also in general. What does it mean now for being responsible to students, being responsible to families, being responsible to staff? And where does the workday start and end?
Because I'm in every day. Teachers did not have the option of having a day off or working from home, I should say. So we come in every day. So in that respect, after 6 months of being out of the school building, I went back in and I felt like I never left. So a lot more work, a lot more planning at home that is taking up a lot of my time. And that's adding to the stress level. The school district is aware of the increased stress that we're going through, and they're trying to remind us to take care of ourselves, but yet they haven't decreased any of our responsibilities.
It's just far expanded and just piled more and more on what was already a very stressful and time-consuming job.
Yeah,
what about you, Cam?
I would certainly agree with a lot of what Julie said. I think that, for us, the structure of our schools are a little different, just being charter, and the overall organizational structure is just different. But the operations team, myself, and the staff that work closely with me, we've been in school since July because a lot of our duties were built around just restructuring what the building looked like much sooner than school would ever start, making sure that, basic cleaning and sanitization protocol was started immediately, kind of undoing some of the things that happened at the end of last year when basically we all made a split decision that school would no longer be, we wouldn't be open anymore, but the way we left, we just had to, we didn't leave in a traditional fashion. So we didn't properly off-board staff or anything like that. It was like, this is an emergency. Clearly everyone is out and we prepare for remote teaching. So we've been, working very hard to just kind of like wrap up last year the right way and then transition into the new year with all of the changing standards. I feel like, the workday has become so extreme and working from home so long, it definitely blurred that line where at one point, it was like, I'm working hard all day. At least I'm transitioning into my home. So maybe I eat and work out, whatever I do, spend time with family, and then maybe I come back to work. But when you're at your home all day and like you start your morning, maybe you're working before you even like officially get dressed, you're still in your pajamas, drinking coffee, working. And, that can just basically be your whole day. And you can, forget that you are actually home and that you have like personal things that you want to do. So I think that it's been very important from an administrative angle to like understand that vision and be supportive of that vision. Even though at the same time, like our leadership is dealing with that process as well. I found value in going back to the school in the sense that like I did have that transition again, but realistically the time, the hours that I'm spending, are just still very intense. I mean, there's just a lot of responsibilities. I think our school day without the pandemic was already, there's cycles where it's just a lot of work. And now you factor in that like, you don't need to be on the clock, round the clock, but in some ways you are, because you're always worried about like what the next thing is, the next responsibility, the next standard, your overall students' well-being and safety, your staff's well-being and safety. A lot of our staff actually gave out their cell phone numbers during this time. How do you turn that off now? Even though they're back in the building, they have an official office line and extension, but they've been building relationships with students and families through their personal phone. And that's an example of just like that extra mile that people are going. So now a parent has a question in the evening, they may not think that like, this is this person's personal time. I'll wait until the morning. They'll just send the message when they're thinking about it, which in some ways is understandable, but now it puts a responsibility on a staff member to either address it in the moment because they really want to, resolve whatever the situation is, or be mindful enough to step back and kind of like utilize that actual business time for that concern. So I say all that to say that like work is definitely increased. I think it's a hardworking profession as is. And I think everything that's going on now, it illuminates the need to like really be attentive to everyone's mental health and well-being. So I would hope that across the board that we're all doing that for ourselves and for the people we work with, and just kind of encouraging the opportunities to step back wherever possible.
Yeah, I think that's another one of those consequences is just thinking about the trying to do traditional school in a non-traditional way, a new way, is not sustainable. And it's going to need to be doing school in a new way, just in general, right? Like that, in order to be able to preserve human resources. So yeah, I like that. And that, you know, I had a conversation with a parent once, and I love how sometimes, even though I am a parent, I do still love how my eyes are open so much more when I speak to my students' parents. And she just said, you know, I don't get home until 10 o'clock at night. I don't even know what is changing or what has happened in my child's school day until I come home late at night. And if it's something that needs to be addressed, I have to be able to reach out to staff. So it's almost like it's also out of necessity too, right? It's so, especially because many older students are also really in charge of navigating that remote learning independently because their parents are working, you know, they are out of the home. So, wow, awesome. So close it up with tips, right? Like, so we've exchanged so much knowledge that we've learned, some of the challenges, but also some of the positives that have come out of this for education. And what would you say would be the tips to educators, parents, students, or teachers in just kind of continuing to navigate COVID learning and then moving forward?
Change is constant, and we have to be flexible, and we have to give people a break. That's my only tip.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and mine is just an extension of that. It's the same thing. I was thinking flexibility and adaptability. We just have to understand that this will not be perfect. We're going to get a lot wrong, but I think the benefit is that we'll learn so much and ideally improve upon a system that needs it in the future. And we have to just treat each other with that mindset all the time. Like, we're all stressed right now. We are all overspent compared to what we would normally expect. But I think that if we can continue to be supportive of one another, students, families, staff, we'll find brighter days.
I like that. That's perfect. I love the idea of just, we're all vulnerable to each other. Nobody necessarily has the answers, but we need each other to find the answers and to support each other. I love that.